All right, another crazy day today. I think it's one of the best of the day. My students and I locked in profits of over $250,000. Um, just awesome. Remember, I'm trading with a small account this year. It freaks a lot of people out. They're like, why is a millionaire trading with just a $12,000 account? Because I want to show you how to grow a small account exponentially. So this was my short on MGT, and I just showed the screenshot because some people actually believe that E-Trade does not have shares to short. Little do they know that you just have to set up your account the right way. And a lot of my critics don't realize that. They don't value my teachings, so their accounts are set up the wrong way, so they don't have shares to short. And that is a nice slap in their face, and that shows the value of my teachings. That's just one example. There are shares to short at E-Trade if you know where to look. And if you don't know where to look, it's your own fault because you haven't been watching my video lessons or DVDs or webinars where I explain. So I just shorted a small amount. Remember, I'm trading with just 12,000 to begin the year. And I had to tweet this out to remind people because they're like, oh, you only shorted 1,000 shares. You don't obviously believe in it. My E-Trade account is only $4,000. Well, now it's actually closer to 5,000 after today. I made a few hundred. I covered a little too soon, but remember, for me, it's just growing the small accounts to show you how to grow it. I'm actually taking a big one for the team. I could easily trade with $1 million account or even a $5 million or a $10 million account if I want it. But what value would that be for your education? Not as much if I use brokers that you can't afford. So I'm using small brokers with small accounts to show you exactly how to do it. And my 12,000 that I began the year with is now roughly 47,000. So step by step, today I made 1,700. Yesterday I made roughly 1,000. The day before I made like 1,000. So 1,000, 2,000 a day, it adds up. But I'm also so proud of my students. Tim Grattani earlier, he was shorting MGT also, and he posted that he had made 33,000. But then later, I didn't even see this screenshot until someone just told me he made 58,000. So MGT, is definitely the play du jour, and this kind of cracking, it is. I mean, it's perfect. Look, Timley / Sykes trades. This is a blog post I wrote in 2010. Now this is 2013, but the blog post that this leads to with the chart pattern was written in 2010. It's the same pattern. Let me see, where was it? $1 million pattern. That's what it was called. It's somewhere in here. I have too many blog posts. I can't even keep track. Too many links. Ay, ay, ay. Let me just Google it. Tim Sykes $1 million pattern. There we go. 2010. And this seemingly unchanging $1 million stock market pattern strikes again. Every single time there's a paid pump, MGT is a paid pump, and you can see these things uptrend for a few days, and then they crash very similarly. This was Horiyoshi Worldwide. Thinkorswim had shares to short this time, and I was short pretty big, and I covered too soon. I was short 35,000 shares. That's when I was trading big. But you can see that it starts fading a little bit, and then it falls off a cliff, little bounce, falls off a cliff, little bounce, falls off a cliff, little bounce, falls off a cliff. So very similar pattern where you have it fading a little bit, falls off a cliff, bounce, falls off a cliff, little bounce, falls off a cliff, little bounce, falls off a cliff, little bounce. So this is what happens when you have a paid pump and it starts reversing course. This is not rocket science. If you look at this supernova on the daily chart, I mean, anytime you have a stock that goes this supernova, I want it to go as high as possible because it gives it more downside. And this thing has already tanked 50% off its highs in just one day, and it'll probably drop more. I actually probably should be short overnight, but I ran out of day trades with my E-Trade account. I don't want to go into some 90-day restriction if you make too many day trades. So that was poor trade management on my part. But E-Trade does have shares to short. It's not all day, like anytime you want. You have to pick and choose. But several of my students nailed it, and I got to give them props. Here's Alex. He's probably one of the best examples because he shorted today at E-Trade at $5.20, just 2,000 shares. So he's betting roughly, what, $10,400 that this thing is going to drop. And he covered it at 278 and 288, which were actually fantastic covers. And he made 4,703 fucking profit. And he's pumped up. And he was also messaging me that like he's shaking. And this is the pattern. This is why I got into teaching. I was actually trying to collapse these patterns with enough people learning them, and it theoretically wouldn't work. These patterns have taken over my life for the past 2 decades. I miss so many birthdays. My friends think I'm like a dick because I miss so much of their stuff. I miss my college graduation for this kind of a pattern. So I'm glad that some of you other guys now are beginning to see how you can make 50% in a day. I know it sounds impossible, and in the rest of the stock market, it is impossible. But if you wait for the right setup, it's not an exact science. I was commenting on it. Let me show you my commentary first of all, because there's some success and some failure in my commentary, but more importantly, there's a lot of lies being spread around about me, and this is why I like time-stamped commentary. I had a lot of commentary today. Let me just go to the beginning of the day. Wow, I have a lot of commentary. If you're in my chat room, you see this stuff in real time. Let's see. So, I mean, leading into today, really the past 2 days, I've been saying, okay, MGT, it's a paid pump. There's something really fishy about this company. I think it's going to crash. And I've totally missed the upside. And you'll see that a lot of the time where I miss the upside because I'm playing it too safe, because I'm cautious. But I had an idea that it was ending. And so this was the first thing. It said MGT keeps going, but I would definitely lock in profits longs. This is how supernovas end, and it's beautiful / scary. That was right near the market open. But a lot of longs, one in particular who I'm going to rip on a little bit, and if he takes it seriously, too bad, because he's a good educational example. And then I reversed course at 10:21, and I said I wouldn't be shorting MGT here. The shorts have tried to morning crash it. It looks to have failed, so another squeeze is likely. Potential buy for me, but any bounce could fail too, so I sit on the sidelines. So I'm trying to judge it. This one comment, everyone's like, oh, you said not to short it. Yes, I said I would not short it. But then 14 minutes later, I said, with this MGT crack, nobody should be long. This could be the beginning of the end in the high fours, and I wouldn't be surprised if this got to the threes or even twos tomorrow. And I underestimated it because, it was specifically the twos today. And the reason why I'm flip-flopping, I'm not a politician, it's because, I'm scared when you have like this kind of morning panic and then it goes right back near its highs. When it goes back near its highs, it's back in potential squeeze mode for me. And I don't want to short a potential morning squeeze. But at the same time, because I know how far it's gone, I wasn't really going to buy it. So there was no play. But when I left that comment, it was right in here. 10:35 is right here. So it had this little crack and it kind of fell off a cliff and was kind of making it a new day low. That is the time that, alerted me, okay, it's game over. And, unfortunately there were no shares to short here. You actually had to risk a little pain. And one of my chat room subscribers said that, and he remembers saying, when you're shorting these supernovas, you can't necessarily short it at the exact time that you want, because shorting, you have to find the borrows ahead of time. So when Alex, for example, was shorting, where was he? Alex was shorting it at $5.20. So he was risking a little pain before you got the crack, but he got the borrow because he was prepared, because he had the right mindset. And, this was just a beautiful, beautiful crash. You got a few trading halts because it was too volatile, and the circuit breakers go off. But this is how a stock can drop, 50% in, what is this? This is 480 at 10:54 a.m. And then at 11:15 a.m., it's got down to like 260. So nearly 50% drop in 20 minutes. And this is why it's so difficult for me to go long pumps, because this can happen at any time. This happened on like day 7 or something of the pump, but this can also happen on day 2 or day 3 of any pump. And you don't really see that happening. In the days leading up to this, It looked low. It's so steady. It's so solid. It's so solid. It's so solid. Oh shit. And it comes out as a surprise. So I'm trying to warn you guys of when it could potentially happen. So I was dead on with that commentary. I didn't short it until the bounce, but I love shorting into this bounce, when it's $1 a share off its lows because it's likely that it's going to return to the day lows, if not crack it, which it did. And this is straight out of my penny stocking framework DVD. If you haven't seen it, this is a classic. Number 4 pattern is the crash. Actually, number 5, you can even dip by it and make $1 a share. And then this is a number 6 from my 7-step framework, and it still works. It's a few years old, but it's amazing. So props to Alex. This was Brian. He was actually buying the stock for the past 2 days. He bought it in the twos, and he was selling some at 270. He sold some at 380. He sold some more at 382, and then he sold the rest today at 480. So awesome patience. And I love that, he's scaling out of the position and he nearly doubled his account. So awesome job, Brian. And here's Sam. He made 5 grand also. Here's Brandon. I love this. He says, last October I started studying. Just 2 weeks ago he started trading, and today he's up $1,000. And that's a good time frame. You don't have to start trading right away. A lot of this is about studying. I compare it to like medical school. You don't see like first year med students performing surgery on patients. They have to go through several years. Obviously, this is not as hard as that. You don't have to be as smart as a doctor. Look at some of the people in my chat room and you'll see that. But you do need some time to get used to the patterns and the volatility. So I like what Brandon Rakowski has done. So good job, Brandon. What are you playing with here? Are those dogs? Oh, you got little doggies. Good job, Brandon. Here's my student, Mark Crook. He actually choked on MGT, and he was like pissed off that he like covered. And I was like, how much are you up today? And he's like, well, I'm up about 7,000. And I'm like, dude, don't worry about quote choking if you can make 7,000. He made 3,700 here. Then he made some money on HERO also, shorting that play. But he shorted APPY, which was a sympathy play of MGT, and then also Hero. And, he's now up close to $550,000 since becoming my student. He moved from his terrible cubicle job in Texas. He moved to Miami. He met the love of his life. I went to his wedding. If you can make 7,000 in a day and still screw up, you're doing pretty damn good. He sees people like Tim Grittani making like 50,000 in a day, and he wants that. I get that. But don't try to compare yourself and don't try to copy other traders. It's just to inspire you, to show you what's possible. I had a nice little chat with Mark. If you can make 7,000 in a day, think about all the people and all the jobs out there where, a good job, you make 7,000 in a month. And, Mark didn't even do well, and he's like knocking himself. He's like, oh, only made 7,000 today. Man, nah, nah, nah. Here's Josh. Josh is one of my most dedicated students, and he was actually talking about that blog post from a few years ago. It's the same fucking pattern. I don't know what to tell you guys. Obviously, it's a little different every time. It's not an exact science. If it was an exact science, I would be a billionaire, and I would not even be teaching because I would just keep it all to myself and buy up like 20 Caribbean islands and have parties all the time. But it's not an exact science. You just have to understand the gist, where once a stock that is a paid pump starts to fade a little bit on like, how many days has this been? I should look it up so that I don't give you wrong information. So this was when the news was announced on May 9th, and the stock went to like 40 cents. So this was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. So today's day 8. And again, the more days up in a row, the better, because it just can't sustain it. Yesterday it traded over 100 million. Today it got to nearly 100 million shares. I mean, this thing is trading more than like the S&P 500. Like it's insane, and it's not going to last. And John McAfee is not as successful as you think. McAfee software got big, but he wasn't involved when it got big. He was off doing drugs and being fucking insane like he is. So he's more like Martin Shkreli. And if you remember Martin Shkreli of KBIOQ, this was his big spike, and then it came down and went bankrupt. They got another spike, and now it's coming down again. So you can't trust these questionable CEOs who were tweeting about the stock. That's not the sign of somebody who's like a good business person. That's a sign of a pump and dump. Um, and so that's what's going on here. I also got to give props to Travis. He made 1,200 this morning. Timo, this is awesome. First $1,000 day in gains. And, again, a lot of people on Wall Street will look down on this. They'll say it's not much money, but you all start somewhere, okay? And your first 1,000, I remember my first, well, I don't remember my first 1,000, but I remember my first 100,000 when I was a freshman in college that day. And I hope that you guys have your first $100,000 day to remember. Also, I got to give props to Major Hitman. He was actually on long on TISA. He actually had a fantastic exit, 249 pre-market. And as I said, even when I was buying TISA in the low twos, that there was massive multi-month resistance in the 250, 260 zone. So Major Hitman woke up early and got a fantastic exit. Here's Mr. Jensen. So Mr. Jensen was all nice and happy in the morning, and he made he's up 7,000, but he kept holding. And I actually called him out in the middle of the day because, his 7,000 had been reduced to like 2,000 in profits, and he was still holding. And he's like, I believe in McAfee. Tim, you don't know the research behind IT and security. You don't know my back. And I was like, Jensen, you're full of shit. I don't care about what industry this is. This is my pattern. This is my pattern. I know this. This is my bread and butter. And again, it's not an exact science. So I've been warning about this stock for too many days in advance. So Mr. Jensen is thinking, oh, Tim, he means well, but he doesn't know this pattern that well. Just because I underestimated how great a run-up MGT would have does not mean that you should ignore my experience on the way down. Because on the way down, that is my fucking bread and butter. That is what I know. And aside from that one commentary where, I was thinking it might be a morning squeeze, pretty much every single thing I said throughout the day was dead on. And you can go back and look through all my commentary. This is now my pattern. And I wish Mr. Jensen had locked in profits. But the problem is, the same gift that allows you the patience to hold such a supernova for so long is the downfall because you don't get off. And I know a lot of traders who just go down with the ship and they never get off and they never, leave, and then they become bag holders and they're bitter. And that's why most traders lose. If you have profits, whether it's 2,000, 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, take it. This is best case scenario. If the stock goes from 50 cents to $2, that's near best case scenario. If the stock goes from 50 cents to $4, that's pretty much best case scenario. If the stock goes from 50 cents to $5, that is motherfucking best case scenario. Take the profits. Especially when it starts fading. It pisses me off. And I got a little too mean, but you have to be cruel to be kind in the teaching game. I've really learned this the hard way. If I say, oh, maybe, say it in a nice way, maybe you should take profits. It doesn't get through to people and they don't take the profits and they, bag hold. You have to be mean. You have to make, some kind of memory. So they're like, oh, Tim's an asshole. He's telling me to sell. I don't care if you think I'm an asshole. I'm not here to make friends with you. I'm here to teach you specific rules. So when I see the pattern that I've been warning about and the pattern that I've been writing about and the pattern that I've been trading for nearly 2 decades take shape, I get very aggressive because I can be wrong, but I can also be very, very fucking right. Here's John Colley. Because I'm a penny stocking silver today, thank you for all that you do. I've doubled 2,000 since last Wednesday because of your lessons. Hopefully we'll continue to learn, grow, and profit with you and all others. Beautiful. Very nice comment. Here's Super Thermal in at 357, out at 517 with his puny 76 shares. Do not worry if you have 76 shares or 760 shares or 760,000 shares. We all start somewhere. And, those of you with smaller accounts, you got the eye of the tiger. So don't ever put yourself down in commentary and don't let anybody ever put you down with your, quote, puny trades. I'm so sick of these rich fucking pricks saying that people with small accounts shouldn't trade. Not everybody is born with a fucking silver spoon in their mouths, okay? And the rich people that I know, the trust fund babies, are the most fucked up people you will ever meet. Billionaires that I've met, they are so fucked up. They're hardly even human anymore, okay? I get along with poor people better. I have a big mouth. What can I say? but don't ever put yourself down, especially when you make 50% on your money. That's a fucking great trade. Here's Afraid 19. He actually shorted APHD, which was a giant pump the other day, and he shorted from 29 cents and covered at 7 cents. So nice little 75% gain there in like 2 days. Ralpha Dog, awesome job shorting MGT at 520. Now I wish there was more available. Yeah, you, me, and the rest of the world. Sposito Alex, he's the one who was making the 4700. Uh, Here is Xian Zhong, made quick 600. Susie shorted 2000 at 527, still holding, but everything the stock tanks. My platform freezes. It's too much to handle. Well, hopefully your platform froze all day so that you couldn't cover, but I think you did. Here's H. Kim, shorted MGT at 520 and was worried about risking it with such a low point, but Tim has said sometimes you need to risk a little pain to find shares to short. He's a pretty wise man. Thank you. I'm glad I copied this because this is the key. I probably should have done a little better. I probably should have gotten short in the fives, but you never know with the exact top. And with my small account and, where I have to really pick and choose my trades with E-Trade, I didn't want to risk it. I tried shorting MGT twice in the past, and I was wrong once, and then I was kind of right for a little gain, like a little morning panic once. But that made me a little more scared to short. So that was my bad. And H. Kim, good job. Thank you for remembering that lesson because that allowed you to find the shares to short. Charioteer says Sykes wasn't joking how hard and fast these pumps crash. Scary. Correct. Here's Susie P. Covered very nicely at 271. Made almost 5,000. Made up for the $1,000 loss from going long 2 days ago. Awesome job. Bigger gains than losses. That is the key. And then Susie P thanked me. Still trying to learn more about shorting. That gave me a huge confidence boost. Yeah, I'd say when you make 50 fucking percent, that should be a huge confidence boost. That is best case scenario. Here's Alex saying just posted the screenshot, shaking right now, and that's awesome. When my dad threw out the first pitch at Fenway, I still have to post it on Instagram. I posted the video on Snapchat. There wasn't enough Wi-Fi to post. Some people are like, "Oh, you faked it. You didn't post the video. He didn't throw out the first pitch." I have the dumbest fucking haters. Let me tell you, they didn't check my Snapchat and saw the video. They didn't think, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe there's not a lot of Wi-Fi to post a big freaking video." But my dad was shaking when he threw out the first pitch, and it's that beautiful feeling when you have adrenaline. So whether you're throwing out the first pitch at Fenway or making nearly 5,000, it's a great feeling, and that's the feeling that I had when I made my first 100,000 as a freshman in college. And Alex is going to apply to be my challenge student now that he has the whole summer off. So good job. Here is Sam Saul covered at 308 from 358. Good trade. That's similar to mine. I made like 50 cents a share shorting my MGT. I made, a few $100. Here's Mr. Jensen. Oh, I wanted to show you this just to show you wrong thinking, erroneous thinking. And he says, I'm betting against this on MGT, meaning that he's betting against the fall, meaning that he's betting on MGT. I am long the next couple of weeks, waiting for the PR to come out. I know also that Tim's strategy says cut losses quickly, but when MGT has such an awesome CEO and even renamed the company to reflect his own name, that funny. I need some big wins, and if this spikes to 10 on the next PR, I will be glad. If not, I will make sure to get out before that. Still with a profit of at least 2K. At least I am double of my account since I blah, blah, blah. Wrong, 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 wrong. McAfee is not a great fucking CEO. Do more research. He might be a great hacker. He might be great with security. I wouldn't even put it past him if he put in some fake buy orders to create this whole pump. But he is not some billionaire, okay? If Carl Icahn was buying this company, like VLTC in the 2s, which went to the 20s, that would be different. Icahn is a billionaire. McAfee is not. You might know who this guy is, but that does not necessarily mean that, it's a good company to hold, especially for a few weeks. And I know that Tim's strategy says cut losses quickly, but I'm just going to ignore that. Wrong, 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 wrong. You can't ignore rules and expect to be okay. People ask me, I followed almost all the rules, but I ignored this rule and I lost big, and I think your strategy sucks, Tim. If you ignore rules, no different than if you drive 100 miles an hour with a Ferrari in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, when school's getting out and you hit a few kids and you're drunk driving and you're like, oh, driving a Ferrari sucks. No, it's because you drove it the wrong fucking way. You ignored the rules, the road signs. So I'm here to teach you the road signs. Cutting losses quickly is not optional. It is crucial. And when you say you're going to hold the stock for a couple of weeks, you do realize this stock is up from 40 fucking cents a share. You know? You don't realize it because otherwise you would be selling. You don't realize that when the news hit, right here, it went from basically 36 cents up to 60 cents and then was kind of doing nothing at 46 cents. Nothing has changed since that first announcement except McAfee hyping up the stock on Twitter and a lot of shorts getting squeezed, early shorts. So if you want to hold the stock for news for a couple of weeks, maybe it should be back down here, under $1 a share, because that's probably where it's going. But you do not hold a stock that's up 10 times and expect it to just come back easily. That is a recipe for disaster. May I remind you of PRGN. This was one of the hottest stocks recently too, and not so much anymore. It too went from actually 25 cents to $4. Let me bring up GLBS. This went from 40 cents to $2. Now it's right back down. Let me bring up ULTR. This one went from 19 cents to 80 cents, and now it's right back down. SYNC won a fucking $100 million a year contract, and it spiked, and it can't even reclaim what it did that first day. So do not underestimate these kinds of drops because it actually is meaningful. And I really, I can be wrong. I have been wrong many times, but when it fits my pattern, just assume that I'm going to be right because this is what I fucking know. And that's why I come down so hard. And Mr. Jensen left the chat room. I don't know if they're still long, but, this was at 12:58 and Mr. Jensen was sticking with it. So at 12:58, the stock price was, let's see, was right around here at 12:58. It was right around here, around 335. And the stock, by the end of the day had dropped $1 a share since that comment. So it's just stupid. It's wasted money, and I don't like seeing wasted money. And if you want to hate me for me coming down on you, then hate me. I don't give a shit, okay? I'm here to make people rich. There's a reason why I have more millionaire students than anybody else. It's not because I'm the nicest guy around. It's because I'm the realest motherfucker out there. And it would serve you well to remember that, The reason why I'm trading with such a small account is so that I can focus on teaching. Guess why I want to focus on teaching? To create more millionaires, because that's what I love doing. Guess what? That works in your favor if you're going to be a millionaire. If you want to be a millionaire, and my whole goal is to create more millionaires, guess what? We're a match made in fucking heaven. But you have to understand my motivation. My motivation is to help you. And as I said, Mr. Jensen, if I was in the room with you, I would smack the shit out of you. I have never been in a physical fight in my life. But I cannot stand ignorance, and I cannot stand stubbornness. And for you to waste your $7,000 profit by ignoring rules, that is dementia, and that is demented, and that is detestable and disgusting and any other word I can think of. Because you had money in your hands, and you let it slip because you fell into the classic trap of believing the company. You somehow did not remember the lesson from my book, An American Hedge Fund, where I had a $500,000 fucking loss because I believed in my best friend's dad's company. Remember that. And by the way, Cygnus e-Transactions, for those of you who have read my book, they basically invented print-at-home ticketing. And they later got acquired. The CEO who looked me in my eye and said that, don't worry, Tim, you're invested in a good company. They have great software. You did good. I'll take care of you. And I felt better after that little lunch meeting. And then a few weeks later, the company declared bankruptcy. That same CEO bought the company in bankruptcy, changed the name, somehow kept all of the contracts, and later resold the company for nearly $30 million, which would have given me several $1 million in profits instead of a $500,000 loss. So never trust corporate management and never invest in these piece of shit penny stocks based on their products or their potential, especially when they fit my motherfucking pattern to a T. I like this comment from Penny Roller. Penny Roller says, after trying out for a couple of months eTrade Pro, Equity Feed, Thinkorswim, and Stocks to Trade, I must say Stocks to Trade is the clear winner. Once I can link my eTrade account to it, it will be a one-stop shop. And that is coming in the next few weeks. We are working on Stocks to Trade multi-broker integration. And I think eTrade and either Ameritrade or Interactive Brokers are first. But I know eTrade is one of the first. So thank you, Penny Roller. We have worked very hard on Stocks to Trade. And I too believe that no other platform has as many features. And we haven't even released all the features that we're working on. Here is Sam, made $5,000 on MGT. Wilson made a few hundred shorting MGT in 20 minutes. John Fine was up 500 shorting MGT. Honestly, I'm trying to save every day trade. And I think, if you're trying to save a day trade, this is just the first down day. This thing is probably going to drop to the ones tomorrow. Here is Af Alterbach. MGT is straight out of Tim's 7-step pump framework. Agreed. Although bouncing again, it could drop pretty fast. I agree 100%. Here is Jason Raposo saying, I fucking love Tim Sykes. You're changing my life for the better. Well, it's my pleasure. And this is why I teach. This is my whole goal. I want to change your lives. Some people are like, Tim, if you were nicer, you could have more students. I don't want more students. I'm already fucking overwhelmed. And because I'm real, I get to choose my students. If you're offended by my swearing or my attitude or my ego, then get the fuck out. I don't need you. You need me. There's nobody else who's creating several millionaires in the world. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Oh, I'm going to ignore Tim. I'm just going to learn all this stuff for free. No one else is fucking teaching this. No one else has nearly 20 years experience. No one else has turned a few thousand into a few million. You have a lot of fakes out there. A lot of people who claim to be successful traders, but they don't show any screenshots. They don't show their track record. And they don't have several millionaire students. And I love my job, but it's tough to explain this to people because they just have the wrong attitude. And if you have the wrong attitude, simply close this video, close my website, and try never to think about this again. And think about all the fucking money that you're wasting by ignoring education. That's my advantage. Being real. And I love it. Some people are like, oh, I forgot to mention, there's somebody posted like a court filing where, I got evicted out of one of my houses. Do you know how many houses and apartments I've lived in over the years? The reason why we got evicted is because I was trying to buy the fucking penthouse and there was mold in it. There was mold all over. I'm thinking about just posting the fucking mold report just to show you. So some people think, oh, Tim's just faking it all. He doesn't even have houses or a Ferrari. I paid cash. I have a video of me paying cash for my Ferrari. I'm the realest motherfucker there is. If anybody hates on me, they're either A, inept, B, a promoter, or C, inept and some promoter. That is the reality of the situation. And there's a lot of shady motherfuckers out there, okay? But I'm not in the game to expose shady motherfuckers anymore. I'm in the game to create millionaires. I could write 20,000 blog posts about every shady fucking person in this niche. But what's the point? Is that going to make you any money? No. Okay? I've already written blog posts exposing the major people like Jonathan Levitt. By the way, MGT is rumored to be a paid pump from Levitt & Co. Look up Jonathan Levitt. Do a Google search, Jonathan Levitt and Timothy Sykes, and I wrote a nice blog post expose about him. So when you think that MGT is a solid quality company, you have to start doing some digging. And anytime there's a paid promotion, the digging ends up with a lot of dirt. Because this stuff is gross. Here's Susie, made $4,000 shorting MGT and decided to hold half a short position overnight. Good job. And here's Live Long. I've been profiting MGT since Friday, so far $6,000 in profits, playing it safe at all times, in and out trades. Thank you for your strategy. My pleasure. So between all of these, and there's so many more, but this is just from chat, and there's a lot of people who don't like to talk about their gains publicly, but they're banking. This is it. This is it, guys. I said I was going to do a minute for every tweet that I got. Let me see how many tweets I got. That's why this has been a little bit of an elongated video lesson. I don't think I can do it though. What is this? Timo. Oh, this was another one. Locked in profits. I didn't see that follow up. And if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. It's great just for sharing this stuff. And it's great with the cash tags if you put a $sign in front of the ticker. It's really good. Where was my blog post where I said for every like that I got, I was going to do a minute? Oh my God, I have a lot of tweets. Here it is. I said I was going to retweet and favorite this if you want a video lesson. And for every like, I would do a minute. So this is only, 35 minutes so far, and I got 138 likes. I can't do a 138-minute video lesson. I'll do 38 minutes. So you got 2 minutes left. What you should take away from this day is that, and by the way, I should mention that I was positive on TISA. This was my play today, and it totally bombed all day. And I was trying to dip by it a few times, and it just could not bounce. And I basically got out for a scratch. It was still a profit because I got in at like 2-ish yesterday before I went to 240. But this was my main play, and I was wrong, okay? And I accept that. And I was forced to get out, but at least I admit it. I was not just going to hold it all day as it continued to not bounce and continue to break support. So sometimes you can have the best setup that you are so proud of, and it doesn't work out. That is trading. But at the same time, when you have paid pumping like this is more reliable because paid pumping can only last for so long. It's artificial, and you know the end game. So the only question was, and I tweeted this to somebody, they were saying to like Tim Grittani, like asking him, why are you short bias? It just keeps going up every day. Because we know the end game. Even if it's going up every day, a lot of you guys who haven't studied this pattern, you're like, oh, it's just going to go up forever. Those of us who have studied know that this is a finite pump. This is a temporary, artificial increase in stock price. And it cannot sustain trading 80, 90, 100 million shares per day for very long. I don't care what the fuck they announce. This is a paid pump, and it is bound to crash. And your job is to find shares to short when it's up too much. And if you're early, maybe even buy it, ride it up. I'm not good at riding it up because all I can think about is the negatives, and I know the end game. So I'm much better with my commentary and trading on the way down. But if you can be, try to go both ways. There's money to be made on the way up and on the way down. And this is going to happen again and again. So if you missed it, and it's still not over, maybe we get a little bounce before the ultimate crash. But if you missed the whole gist of this play, don't worry. There's going to be more. Okay? That's what this is. No one play ever should make you rich. But the process of learning how this play works again and again, and even though it's not the exact same every time, it's not an exact science, you have an understanding. The higher it goes, the more days that it trades 100 million shares, the next day or the next day, it's probably going to crash. And it's scariest when it's about to crash. In the past 2 days, it's gone from 180 to 540. So all these little gains, it's nice, little gains, but then it pretty much straight up. And I know a lot of big short sellers who got absolutely destroyed on the way up because they don't cut losses quickly and they don't have risk management and they haven't watched my DVDs. I know a lot of people make too much money and they're like, I'm not going to watch your DVDs. I don't need education. I think that's fucking dumb. Tim Grittani has a DVD. He just made $50,000 plus. If you go to timgrittani.com, if I were you and you haven't seen it yet, you should watch it and learn from him. There is no shame in learning from anybody who has been successful and can demonstrate it and can share it transparently. There's a lot of shame in learning from somebody who might be nice, but they have no public track record. Okay? I would be very embarrassed to learn from somebody like that. And I know a lot of, quote, nice gurus who don't swear and they're not real. And, they're teaching bullshit. I know a lot of gurus who were long MGT today and long APPY, and they didn't warn about what was coming because, frankly, they don't have the skill set. They don't have the experience to even understand it. It's not that they were trying to be wrong. They're just not smart enough. They're just not experienced enough. So you choose who you want to learn from. But a big warning for you is that it's not always best to be cheap with your education. I know there's a lot of gurus out there and they have cheaper education. And I will tell you that cheaper education or free education will cost you much more in the long run because you will have an incomplete education and you will have misinformation. And even me, my whole job is to give you good information and to teach you. I'm not going to be right every single day, but at least you know my motivation because it's my job to be your motherfucking teacher. And I take that with a lot of pride because I cherish each and every one of my students who is dedicated. And I spit on each one of my students who is not, who only wants hot picks, who doesn't want to actually study, who actually thinks that E-Trade doesn't have shares to short, or gets offended by a grammar or a hashtag. I've heard every fucking excuse in the book as to why you shouldn't study. But that's not going to change your life. Excuses will never change your life. This pattern, recognizing it, profiting from it, it will. As you can see from several of my students who made 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, 50,000. That is the kind of money that you can make with preparation. And some days there will be no great plays. Some days you're going to have to take some small losses. Some days, you might have a great play and you'll screw it up. I cannot repeat enough that this is not an exact science. I am not a mathematics teacher. 7 times 8 will not always equal 56. But if you have, is that the right number? I'm terrible at math. If you have the right gist and the right understanding, I think the best comment of the day, and I don't even know how much he made, or she, H. Kim, shorted MGT at 520, was worried about risking it at such a low point because, at that point when H. Kim was shorting, it was choppy between 520 and, 540. So it's scary to short this right here at 520. But thanks to one key lesson and one key rule is that, sometimes you need to risk a little pain to find shares to short. This could be the single best statement of the day. And, I don't repeat this all the time because a lot of people don't like short selling. But that one statement and that one lesson that I taught H. Kim, kept H. Kim from not shorting. It made H. Kim want to short. Okay? And even I forget this lesson sometimes because I didn't want to risk any pain. I didn't want to risk a day trade if I was wrong. But this is what I love when my students do better than me. My students can take what I've learned, take the lessons, and build on that. You think Tim Grattani and Michael Good and Mark Crook follow my alerts? No. None of my successful traders follow my alerts or anyone's alerts. Because the key in this game is learning from successful traders, ideally. A mentor helps. I never had one, and that fucking sucks, and that hurt me for years. But taking some stuff from successful traders and implementing it and remembering it and, trying to do the best you can. We're all trying to do the best we can. That's what this comes down to. I don't think there's anybody out there, unless some fucked up people with some, fucked up priorities in life and they're just going for action. But the rest of us, we're trying the best we can. So don't be so hard on yourself if, you have a puny 76 shares, super thermal. You just made 50% on your money. That is more than almost any single professional makes on any of their investments. So you hold your head up high and do not listen to what any fucked up cocaine, Red Bull loving Wall Street piece of shit with some fancy suit and tie and some shoes that cost more than your car says. Because they're full of shit and they're not the future. You guys are the future. Education is the future. Transparency is the future. Admitting mistakes is the future. Being real is the future. Not getting offended, not being narrow-minded, not putting in 50% effort, but putting in 100 fucking % effort every single day because this is a tough game. And if you have the wrong attitude, just stop right now because it's hard enough for me to create millionaires even if you have the right attitude. If you have the wrong attitude, you have absolutely no hope because you have something wrong in your brain and I can't fix that. That's due to your parents and your teachers failing. So get the right attitude. Get inspired by these students. Get inspired by these charts and these patterns that keep happening again and again and again. And this market is so fucking on fire. And go back and listen to this video and take a drink for every single time I use the word fuck. And don't drive and call an Uber. I'll see you in the chat room tomorrow.